I know it's been a while. I know it's been, a couple weeks since I posted my first video. But, life happened, transitions, I'm redoing my room, little things like that, that kind of kept making me push back when I would make these videos. But I'm here now. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you are healthy, comfy, and relaxed, and ready to get into these book reviews. I don't have tea tonight. I kind of already had tea earlier, so I have this Frosty strawberry lemonade. I don't usually drink carbonated drinks, but strawberry lemonade, so I couldn't, resist. But yeah, don't worry. Next video, I'll have tea. It'll be tea. So what I have for you guys today for the first book review is what I know best. Okay, the good majority of my bookshelf is fantasy, fairy tales. A little twinkly-dee, a little twinkly dum. I have for you guys tonight Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue. She is an acclaimed Irish author, and she's known for a lot of her feminist writings, books. But this is the first time I've read anything from her, so I guess it was a good first round with Miss Donoghue. I'm gonna start off with just reading you the synopsis. So 13 tales are unspun from the deeply familiar and woven anew into a collection of fairy tales that wind back through time. Acclaimed Irish author Emma Donoghue reveals heroines young and old in unexpected alliances, sometimes treacherous, sometimes erotic, but always courageous, told with luminous voices that shimmer with sensuality and truth. These old-age characters shed their acquainted cloaks to travel a seductive new landscape, radiantly transformed. So this is basically a book of short stories, kind of, where you have different characters from very popular fairy tales kind of like tell their stories. All of the characters that tell their stories are female characters, and like I said, it's a mixture of young, old, and how it goes, how the stories are formed is that you start off with one character. One character starts it off, tells their story, kind of to the audience, and then their story is told, per se, and then a character within their story starts telling their story. So, and then so on and so on and so on till the end of the book. So it's like characters within stories are, telling their stories. And that's how it goes, and how the stories will start is basically the character will be like, the main character of the story will ask the character about to tell their story, like, hey, what's your story? Or what's your deal? Why are you the way you are? Or why are you here? Why are you doing this? And they'll be like, oh, well, let me tell you. So, yeah, that's kind of how it goes, and I really like that format. I don't know, it's kind of like a, what do you call it? A telephone game, but not the telephone game. Just different. So, what's similar? So, yeah, I like that aspect of the book very much. And as you can tell, I got piano keys going on here at the ends of my book. If you're gonna see this on all of my books. If I own the book and I read it, you're gonna see this. That's how I am. So, yeah, it starts off, well, I'm not going to tell you who starts the story off, because if you ever read this book, if you're interested, or if you've read it already, then you might have done it, but I kind of played this little game where where I guessed, like, which story belonged with, like, what original story, which new story, or I should say which Donoghue story matched with the original. Like, Cinderella, Rapunzel, which one was which. Most of them were kind of obvious, but there were some that I was just kind of like, I never heard of you. So you're new, and I need to find out where you come from. But that's mainly because, these are kind of there's fairy tales that have kind of been pushed to the side or overshadowed by the big ones, the big the popular fairy tale stories. So I kind of had to look them up a little bit, but one of them, so there's a Thumbelina story in here, but I was so ashamed of myself because I didn't recognize it. I was like, I don't know what this is, and then when I looked at the end, when I looked up the ones I couldn't figure out, and I was like, how did I not get that, I feel like that would be an easy one to pick out, but it wasn't for me, so, yeah, but, saying that, so, let me just tell you my favorite three, the ones that stood out to me, the stories that stood out. And it kind of surprised me that these stood out, because I guess, like, the Disney-fied versions of these tales are like, two of the stories. Like, I liked the Snow White story, Hansel and Gretel, and Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid and Snow White are like some of my least favorite princesses, Disney-fied. They're just, I don't know, I just don't find them, I don't know, I was like, wow, I love Snow White and Little Mermaid when I was a kid. But they're cool princesses, don't get me wrong. It's just, I never was really into it. The princesses I like are Princess Tiana, Mulan. Okay, don't get at me, but Princess Aurora. Okay, her movie was really, like, the artwork was really pretty. Or I should say the animation. It looked like stained glass windows to me, and I also liked just I think it was the dragon, Maleficent. That was what made it for me. So that's one of my favorites. And then, of course, SZA. SZA's she's not Disney-fied yet, but she's definitely a princess that is freaking awesome. Or you know what? No. SZA, I feel like she'd be a fairy. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think SZA would be a princess or a fairy? I'm gonna go with fairy. But yeah, those are my favorite princesses. So that's kind of, and Princess Nala, of course. Those are generally the ones that I usually like. So it was a shocker to me that I liked the Snow White and Little Mermaid stories. In Donoghue stories. I like the Little Mermaid and Snow White Donoghue stories. So the reason I liked Snow White was because I thought the character Snow White was very different from her other counterparts. Other stories, retellings I've read of Snow White, she's been my favorite so far. Donoghue's version. She's sure of herself, and she's just kind of like, look, guys, I'm just trying to survive. Y'all do what y'all want to do. I'm just trying to survive and live life here, okay? Y'all are just kind of in the way. Move back, please. So, and she has a very interesting dynamic that's more in depth with, or with her stepmother, the evil queen, and I really like their relationship, how it's changed in Donoghue's retelling. So, that's the one I liked the most. And then the second one I liked was Hansel and Gretel. I thought it was a pretty realistic outlook on how things would have happened if that situation actually happened, and it wasn't so fairy tale-ified. And I guess if like Hansel and Gretel stayed there a little longer and they kind of grew up a little bit, I could see that happening, So, and I definitely sided with the witch on this one, but in a majority of these stories, you're gonna probably find yourself siding with most of the traditional villains. I mean, but when you read it, it's kind of like the villains aren't the problem here. They're not the threat here in these stories, because really the threat is society. Society's pressures that they put upon women, and then how society secludes older women, women that aren't married, and women that might have disabilities or just aren't to the normal standards. They're put as outcasts and they're seen as different, and then, from that, rumors, stories start arising about who they are, what they do, and people are scared of the unknown, so of course they get turned into witches and villains. So, that's kind of the gist of a lot of these stories is, they're seen one way by the rest of the world, but when they get to tell their story, you see their side of things. You're like, yes, I'd be a little upset, a little uncomfortable too. So, yeah, I love this book. It was published the year I was born, 1997, and it's a short read. If you're just looking for something to read, like you have a break that day and you want to read something nice, short, or you're trying to get into fairy tales. You know the basics, and now you're trying to get into more fairy tales and fantasy readings, and you don't want all that, you don't want too much right away. I suggest this because I just feel like it's just something that you can it's a fun little read, and I like that you can kind of play a guessing game with it of what story belongs with what original fairy tale. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I give this book a 10 out of 10 rating. I wrote a lot of notes within this. I found a lot of good little quotes that I can repeat and annoy my friends with and family. So, yeah, I hope you guys check this out. Let me know what you think if you've already read it, or if you read it later on and, you just want to share some things, drop it in the comments. And if you have any other suggestions, like any other fairy tale retellings that you think I should check out and read, just let me know, and I'll be looking at the comments. And I hope you guys have a comfy, cozy night, and sweet dreams, and don't let the bed bugs bite.